everyone, Emma Dyer, Equine Careers. I'm coming to you today to talk through how to create an effective CV. Now, the CV is a really important document, but we only need it, we only use it for job applications. Now, I know lots of people have a CV ready, but is it actually constructed correctly? And your CV will get altered and will amend throughout your career. Even right at the early stages, you might start off having your qualifications at the top. And then once you start in employment, then you'll change and you'll have your employment history at the top. So it does have to be adjusted throughout the course of its life. But to start with, let's just discuss what CV stands for. It's obviously a Latin word, curriculum vitae. And curriculum vitae actually stands for the course of life, which is quite an interesting sentence. Now, your CV is a record of your academic and professional achievements throughout your life. Now, we need it for job applications. It's the facts of what you have to offer. It's the nuts and bolts of what you've done in your life, with dates of employment, of education, your skills, and your qualifications. So it's very different to the covering letter, which we spoke about last time, but the covering letter definitely enhances your CV and explains why you're interested. And that's when you can go into more of an opinion and a discussion about yourself. But the CV is actually the factual side, the nuts and bolts of what you've done and why and what you've got to offer. So top tips about your CV. I don't want to see paragraphs and paragraphs of text, because when an employer has got 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 CVs to look through, if he just sees pages and pages of text, it's really off-putting and it's not encouraging to want to read more. One of the main points about a CV is you want to look at it, and at first glance, it's really easy to follow and you can really see all the information that you need at a really simple first glance. So that's one of my top tips, is make sure that your CV is easy to read and easy to follow, and it encourages people to want to read more. Now, bullet points. I love using bullet points, particularly for CVs. I know they're old-fashioned, but I still think that there's a place when you're constructing an easy-to-follow CV to definitely use bullet points. Make sure you're using titles so that all the information is sort of separated and, again, easy to follow. Now, if at all possible, you must try and keep your CV to just 2 pages. Again, otherwise it's just too long and there's too much information and the person is not necessarily going to read all of it. They're going to pick and choose the bits that they really want to know about you. And the most important fact is you've got to start with what's happening in your life at the moment. You've got to start with the most recent, whether that's your current education of what you're studying at the moment, or your current job of what you're employed at the moment. That's what the person wants to see at first glance, is what you're doing now, and work backwards in date order. Now, there has to be a certain format and layout on your CV. So at the very top, you can call your document CV or curriculum vitae, and that will be followed by your contact details, your name in big letters, because that, again, when you want to stand out from all the other candidates and all the other CVs on that desk. So have your contact details, name, address, telephone number, and email. Even if you're emailing your application to the employer, don't assume that they will then have your email on file. Make their job easy. Have your email address on your CV as well. Now, the next title or heading that you'll have on your CV will depend what you're doing at the moment. If you're in education, then your education and qualifications will come first. And if you're in employment now, then your employment history, that will be the first title after your contact details. And that will switch around. So when you're early in your career and you're still in education, then education will come first. But then once you've secured your first job, you'll need to swap those over on your CV so that your employment then appears first and your education afterwards. That will then be followed, or make sure as well that you've got the information required. So you'll need, if you're in education, where you're studying, what you're studying and how long for, and just a sentence about what that course is, what you're learning, And if you're in employment, who your employer is, the name of the company, your job title, and how long you've been doing that for. And then a sentence or a bit of a paragraph explaining your key responsibilities within that job. After that, your heading is going to be core skills, the things that you do every day that you completely take for granted, but that are really valuable in the workplace. Now, core skills can include anything from communication skills, whether that's face-to-face, on the telephone, on email, and your grammar, things like that. So excellent communication skills. Core skills can be presenting. How good are you at public speaking or presenting information in a meeting? It can be use of IT packages, whether that's Microsoft or on a Mac, social media, or if you're particularly good at accounts, if you've used particular accounts packages or CRM packages, anything like that, they need to know what you're familiar with. It could be your ability at networking, meeting new people, being able to discuss topics with complete strangers at networking events, at work events. If you work on a trade stand, then you'll obviously be confident in talking to new people and discussing certain topics. So if you are good at presenting or public speaking, that's a really good thing to have on your CV. You could demonstrate or confirm that you're good, that you're well organized, able to manage others or manage your own workload, able to prioritize your own work, using your initiative and working to deadlines, working under pressure, working to certain timescales. And it's really important that you're able to demonstrate or just aware of timekeeping. How good are you at timekeeping? How reliable are you turning up and being on time, being presentable? All of those things which should be taken for granted at a job, but are really, really important and set a great first impression. So they're examples of what you can use as core skills. Now, there's another title that you can use in your CV as well. If you've got some extra information that you want to include in there, but perhaps it doesn't fit in anywhere else, it's really good to have a title or a heading, additional skills and qualifications. So it might not be entirely relevant for perhaps the job you're applying, but it's still equally important in the workplace. For example, if you're first aid trained, if you've done a first aid course, that's a really good thing to show on your CV. And it's good to demonstrate as well on your CV what your interests are. If you're interested in horses, if you're a secretary for a local riding club, if you like to attend certain events, or if you volunteer at events and give up some of your time at weekends to help with volunteering. Again, that shows great initiative and who you're networking with outside of work time, what you like to do. And it shows elements of your character, whether you like to spend time on your own or if you're more of an extrovert and like to spend a lot of time with other people. That can just give helpful hints to your potential employer as well. Now, make sure that you save your document as your name. There's nothing worse than when a potential employer has got lots of CVs saved to their computer, but they're all called CV January 2023 or CV 2022. So make sure that you do actually save your document as your name. That will make sure that you're easier to find and you won't get lost. But also make sure that you save your document as a document or an attachment, rather than just including your CV as just a whole load of word text in the body of an email where it can easily get lost. Save your document as a PDF or a Word file, because then most people can open with those packages and view your document. It can be saved on various databases and easily retrieved. So again, that's a great example of how to save your document rather than just including the text in the body of an email where it just get lost and so forth. So there's lots of common mistakes that I see all the time when looking at CVs. It can be no email address or maybe no contact details included. We do need to know what your actual address is. I know that so many jobs nowadays are remote or home working, But if a company is based in a certain location and you're applying for the job, you might still have to attend the office occasionally or even travel to meet clients in a certain area. So if they know where you live, it just helps make the decision process easier if they know that you're based locally or if they know that you can happily commute from your location. It is really helpful. Remember, your CV is not just telling the potential employer about you, but you're trying to make their job of hiring really easy. If you can provide them with as much information as possible, rather than them having to keep coming back to you to ask more questions, just make their job easier. It's a lot more inviting, and they'll really want to meet you if they've got all the information there ready to hand. So yes, do make sure you've got your address on your CV, because I see so many CVs with no address and it's just not helpful. Try not to have paragraphs of just lots and lots of information, because it's just not encouraging to want to read that much information when you've got lots of CVs to read through. Irrelevant information, that's a common mistake. I'll see lots of information on a CV that's just not suitable, not needed, whether people are using it to try and pad their CV out and have more information in there. But sometimes it's just not relevant and you don't need it in. But a really important point to make is the difference between work experience and employment history. Now, hopefully we've all done some work experience, and at some point we will all have some employment history, but the two are vastly different and shouldn't be included under the same title. Your employment history is obviously when you have a job and you're being paid for that job with responsibilities. Whereas the work experience is voluntary. It's normally done as part of your studies where you're learning the ropes, and you're not getting paid for that. So although it's very valuable and we do need to know what you've done as part of your work experience, please refer to the two of them very differently and under different headings. I wouldn't include your work experience under your employment history. So guys, I hope that helps. Now, as a final reminder, your CV should be clear and concise. It can be laid out however you like. It's part of your personality as how you present that information. But just make sure that it's easy to follow, encouraging to read, not too heavy on the text and paragraphs. Bullet points are absolutely fine. Keep it all relevant. Make sure that you've got all the dates, that everything all ties up. There's no gaps in there. Make sure you do a spell check and that you're happy with all the grammar. And good luck with your applications. So just remember, your CV is all about your academic and professional achievements. It's a document full of facts. It's the nuts and bolts and the dates of what you've done in your life. Please do refer back to our covering letter talk, which we did a couple of weeks ago, because a really well constructed covering letter will totally enhance your CV, and equally a well constructed CV will work hand in hand with a really well written covering letter. So you do need both those documents to really make a good impression and secure that all important interview. So I wish you lots of luck, guys. And yeah, keep following Equine Careers for all the latest exciting jobs.